Okay, every year people ask me what they should get their swimmer for Christmas, and I always tell them the same thing. Get a pair of drag socks made by Aquavolo. It's the perfect stocking stuffer for any swimmer. Honestly, there's no simpler training tool to build power in the water than a pair of drag socks. Go to aquavolo.com and use the code BRETT, BRETT, at checkout and save 10%. I'd like to introduce our newest sponsor, Swim Angelfish. Swim Angelfish is an online certification program that strengthens your teaching curriculum to serve swimmers of all abilities. Swim Angelfish will prepare you and your instructors with the skills to teach swimmers with autism, physical disabilities, anxiety, sensory and motor conditions, and more. Learn to teach skills faster and with more comfort with Swim Angelfish. Apply for an Only Alpha Pool Product Scholarship and receive up to 50% off your certification. Go to swimangelfish.com today to apply. Event, heat, lane, name of swimmer, times and places. It's called Swim Nerd Live, and it allows the data and times from your actual scoreboard to be broadcast and viewed in real time on any smart TV, phone, or other device. There are so many things you can do with this software. A very simple and easy to use necessity for any team or facility that is live streaming their meets results. One click on any device and they're watching your swim meet live in real time. Go to swimpractice.com to learn more. Looking to host your first swim meet or replacing an old timing system? Run a swim meet with ease from your laptop using Superior Swim Timing. You can use Superior Swim Timing with your existing equipment, or they can provide you with a complete timing solution, including deck harnesses, buttons, and starter. SST is fully compatible with Hy-Tek and Team Unify, as well as Colorado, Daktronics, and Amiga touchpads. Go to superiorswimtiming.com to learn more, and be sure to tell them I sent you. Chase Bloch, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. We were just discussing the last name, Bloch. I thought it was pronounced differently, but you're telling me that where's the origin?
Yeah, it's German. Yeah, a lot of people say Chase Bloch, and so I still respond to it. But yeah, it's Bloch.
Is it like when German? Like, how did you trace it back?
Like great grandfather.
Right.
Like yeah, but I would say pretty much everyone else that I ask in my family, that like I was able to meet was just California. So I don't think we have too much origin past maybe Southern California.
Right.
We don't go too much further east.
Well, listen, man, I know you well, but then I'm thinking I'm going to have him on my podcast, and then I realize I don't know you that well as I thought. I'm like, I got to dig into this here a little bit, man. So, how you doing, by the way? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, I'm down in Texas A&M. We start the Art Adamson Invite tomorrow in College Station. It's Wednesday through Friday because they got a big football game on Saturday. So they got to get us all out of here before the whole town just turns into football nation on Saturday. And so we got here yesterday, and yeah, we're ready to go. It's our mid-season invite, looking to secure some relay A cuts, and then see what we can do individually. Post some season best times.
Awesome, man. It'd be kind of silly not to just mention the elephant in the room. How's the team going since kind of the change
Yeah.
with Jeremy kind of having to step down, and then what's been happening in the last couple of months?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, it's a whirlwind for sure. I think it's a great thing for life where you can just kind of look at it and be like, hey, you're going to have to take life day by day and things are going to happen where you're not sure, what's coming up next. But the only thing that you can do is wake up every day and try really hard on being your best self. And that's kind of what we've been preaching. And I think the team has done a really good job at doing that. And so we're really excited to see what we got this week.
How did you find out about it, and what did they tell you in terms of what the immediate future would look like?
Yeah, they just said, it's just going to be a step away for right now, and we're just going to continue doing what we're doing. And USC is a great institution. Obviously, I'm biased. I went there. I'm a
Hmm.
proud Trojan,
Hmm.
and
Me too,
I've
man.
kind
Me
of
too.
yeah, I know we got to work together for a couple days last year. You
Yeah.
know, COVID kind of interrupted that. Not as much as we thought we were going to get you on deck, but
Yeah.
we were happy to have you those couple days we did. But yeah, it's just they've done a really good job at setting up the staff and setting up the student athletes. I think our athletic director has done a really good job since he came in 2019, and he wants to be the number one student centered, like student athlete centered program in the country, not just in swimming but in all sports. And so the way that they set it up for the athletes is they're ready to go. And so it can be me coaching, it can be Lee, it can be a monkey, it can be anybody, and they're going to have success. And so that's kind of what you go to USC for, is the resources and the ability to, really be bought in by the administration.
Well, listen, man, you and Lee are certainly not monkeys. You're great coaches for sure. There's no doubt about that. How's Lee doing with all this?
Lee's doing great. I think she's really taking it on, and trying to get USC, as we all are. For the last couple of years, we're trying to get USC back to where it belongs. I mean, you've been on deck. There's no reason that we shouldn't be top five every year. We have the resources. We have the city. We have the awesome alumni network, and it's just getting the right people in the right places and kind of creating that believability from the student athletes to the coaches. And so that's our biggest challenge right now, and that's our biggest working point every day, is just building relationships and really connecting with the student athletes.
Cool, man. One last question on this, and I promise you I'm going to move on.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
what what's the future then? So is Jeremy out? Do we know that yet, or is it still up in the air?
Yeah, as of right now, it's still up in the air, and we're just, like I said, day to day, just kind of going through, and yeah, we're really excited to kind of just see how this week goes, and kind of just get through Thanksgiving, and
Yeah.
then we'll just keep going.
Gotcha, man. All right, cool. Now listen, back to you. If there was one regular in all this, if there's one kind of consistent piece of USC in the last 10 years, man, it's been you. So they've got that. That's amazing. Let's go back to your origin. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me about you and how you got into swimming. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in Hawaii.
Mm.
Grew up there. I had two older siblings. One of them swam, and he was, a really good swimmer. And so I kind of grew up on the pool deck, just kickboarding around, just tried surfing on my kickboard, things like that. Because he's about 9 years older, so I was kind of a little grommet out there. And I fell in love with the sport, fell in love with just being by the water. And then we happened to move to Southern California right after a meet that I had swum. My last meet that I had swum for Team Hawaii was actually at USC, and it was probably the best meet that I had in my life, even past NCAA's and things like that. I swam really well, and I was like, wow, this USC place, I got to check this place out more. And then, little to my knowledge, we were actually moving there a week later, and so we moved to
Oh,
Malibu, and so USC was in my backyard growing up. I moved when I was about 11. And then ever since that, I knew it was kind of like my dream school. And so I just kept swimming, grew up in Southern California, racing a lot of really good athletes in Southern California. And then I had the opportunity, I was very blessed to take a couple of recruiting trips, one being to USC. Funny enough, I had an opportunity to go out to Auburn. I think it was right when you were becoming head coach. It was like '09, 2010.
Did I drop
And
the ball on this? What happened?
no, you did a great job. It was actually I got sick. This was like obviously way before COVID, but it was like swine flu era.
Oh
And I
yeah.
got like sick with swine flu and I had to cancel my trip. But funny enough, I remember I was just talking to one of our student athletes about this. One of my buddies, Carl Krug, who
Mm-hmm.
obviously you know very
Hmm.
well, and
Yeah.
Carl and I grew up together in Southern California.
Right. Yeah.
And I was going back and forth like, Carl, like I'm really sick. I don't know if I should take my trip. And he's like, Chase, he's like, I'm gonna shoot it straight with you. He's like, I know you pretty well. You're a surfer kid. I don't think you've, left closer to the beach than like, 10 minutes away from the beach is probably the furthest you've ever been. He's like, have you ever been hunting or fishing? And I was like, Carl, no, I've never done either of those. And he's like, I don't know if you'll end up at Auburn. He's like, I think you should go with your gut and go to USC. So I thank him for that now that I'm in the position that I'm in coaching at USC.
Mm.
But yeah, it was obviously a great experience to kind of go through the recruiting gamut. And I got to go to a lot of really cool places.
Who was the head coach at USC when you were getting recruited?
So Salo was the head coach.
Okay.
Jeremy was the assistant coach. Catherine was here, as was Kevin Clements. And so Kevin Clements
Oh yeah.
was actually he started my freshman year, so we kind of went through it together, which is really cool. And then yeah, right after, I guess to accelerate the story, right after Kevin left was my senior year, and I was asked to come on to staff. And so it was really unique. Obviously, I just finished up. I was 22 years old, and I was asked to join the staff of a top five Division I program. And it was a lot of responsibility, but I was so in love with USC and the people there, not just on the swim team, but just all over the place, that it was a no brainer for me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into coaching, to be honest. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to do something in sports, and I wanted to do something to help people. And so the more and more I thought about it, I was like, swim coaching, that's in sports, and it's a great way to help people. And so that kind of was how my coaching career began.
I want to certainly dig into that, but just going back, how would you evaluate your own career at NCAA level?
Yeah, I think I was really good on relays. I showed up when it mattered. I think I put too much pressure on myself individually,
What were you
especially
swimming? What events?
yeah, so I did 100 fly, 100 back, and 200 back.
Okay.
And I got to go to NCAA's all 4 years, and I got to be on some really good relays. I got to be on the 200 medley relay, I think my junior and senior year, and we were, I think, top five, which was great. I was on the prelims relay with Vlad before he went 17-8. So I set us up to
Right.
be up there, right? And
Mm.
I remember before going up, because I had never been on the two free relay, but we were holding back some of our guys who were in the 500, and Dave and Jeremy were just like, all right, you just have to go. I was anchoring and Vlad was going third, and they were like, you can start swinging at the flags, like the guy's going to get to the wall, like don't worry, you're never going to leave early. And so I had all the confidence in my teammates and obviously my coaches, and I just wanted to go and swim for USC, and I ended up doing well enough that we got into finals. And then obviously Vlad became the first guy under 18 in finals.
So you think, looking back, do you think you maximized your potential? Do you think you got everything out of yourself as an athlete that you could have, or how do you evaluate it now as a coach? If you're going to look, you've got guys on the team, and you're like, that was me back in the day. Like, where are you in all this?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's something I always think about. I'm always trying to be learning and just trying to be creative with things. And so I think for me, I've gotten better as like an athlete and more perceptive by coaching. And I think a
Mm.
lot of coaches probably think that as well. And so we actually had alumni relays 2 weekends ago, and I threw on a full body jacket, and I swim like maybe once a month. And I'm just kind of in the gym, just staying in shape. And I went 21.850 back,
Mm.
and my lifetime best was like 21.5 my senior year. And I was like, man, one, we should definitely bring back the super suits. I think that's a given. You can attest to that too. You guys
Mm.
had some pretty awesome relays down there and some
No doubt.
individual swims with the golden jackets. I remember
No doubt, man. Love those
that.
things.
But yeah, no, it was interesting. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is obviously the 24/7 athlete, and just being able to take care of my mind and my body a little bit better. I think I was always someone who ate healthy and did the right things outside of the pool, but I think just mentally, I could have been a lot stronger of like how to approach each practice. And I think I would have gotten a little bit more out of myself individually. I think I was able to generate enough kind of adrenaline and like rah team spirit to get going for relays. But I think individually, it was almost like I put too much pressure. I felt like I was a pretty highly recruited athlete out of high school, as was a lot of the guys in my class. And I felt like we definitely could have used that a little bit better than we did.
So, all right, talk to me about that. What do you mean? So you have a great class and you've got a good team. Was there anything holding you guys back at the time for you guys to be kind of like a top one, two, or three team at that point?
I think it was just like that connection, and I think we started to build upon it. And my junior year, we won a bunch of dual meets. I think we beat Stanford at Stanford for the first time in like 15 years or something like that. We won the SMU invite, and then we got to NCAA's and we got fourth. It was the same year that Michigan won. And
Mm.
so it was the first time that USC had won a trophy, and we definitely we said we won it. We got fourth, but we won a big trophy, and that was the first time I think since 2002. So it had been like 11 years, and it was something that we all knew that we could do, and we all knew that USC was like that's what we came for. And then I think we were ready to kind of go from fourth to to being in the hunt first or second, and then Vlad went pro. And I think that kind of derailed us just more from a mental aspect than anything. Obviously, you have fastest man at the time going 40 point and 18 low, go pro. You're like, oh man, because that year our freshman class was number one in the country with Reed Malone, Santo Condarelli, Dylan Carter, Steven Stump. I mean, between those four guys, you have multiple NCAA championships and Pac-12 championships, and that was going to be like the foundation that we were going to be seniors with. So we knew that we had something, but then he went pro, and I think we ended up eighth that year, my senior year, which was not bad, but not where we thought we could have been.
Yeah, I kind of uh thinking that myself. And like if I was to evaluate USC, I would evaluate it the same way as you do in terms of well, especially the way that your new athletic director talks about it, is like you have everything you need. I think like you have. I mean, it's in California, so that's a given. So there's a lot of in-state. First of all, even the fact that you can get in-state tuition. What is the cost of in-state tuition there?
No, so we're private. You have to be.
Oh,
Everyone's the same. Yeah,
oh,
so
really? Everyone's the same.
we're at the not level playing fields with the
Oh,
UC schools,
okay,
unfortunately.
okay.
But
That makes a little
yeah,
bit more sense then.
it's worth the price tag. Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's, what is it running at? About 65,000 now?
Total cost of attendance is about 80K.
80K. Okay. All right. So it's a Ferrari. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Per year. It's expensive, but that's I mean, that makes sense. But you still have the same amount of scholarships as everybody else does. So there's still a chance there.
hmm
And the school speaks for itself. But so there are some challenges. Is there anything else that you think is holding you back from being that top three team perennially? Like is it? I mean, because like when we look at it from the outside in, we think, oh, they have everything they need. But is there something else that's missing that we don't see?
I don't think so. I think right now we're in a good position to be a top three perennial program. I think we talked about all the resources, but I think it just starts with the team, and it starts with wanting to be there. And I've listened to a handful of your podcasts, and listening to Eddie. I took a trip to Texas, and I saw the same thing that he's been talking for the last 40 years. But the guys should be leading the culture, and same thing with our women. Like they should be help kind of leading the culture, and so I think we got to help get it to that point, but then it should just be able to sustain itself. And I think, in having those alums come back and talk, it's really valuable to listen to what they say and kind of hear what it was like. Obviously USC is one of the most historically decorated programs in the country. With Peter Dalen winning two, two four-peats basically back to back
Mm.
in the 70s and late 60s, which is pretty impressive. So I think it's obviously there, but the cost of attendance, the private school, like you said, those are hurdles that we have to find ways to kind of get over that. And I think it starts with just getting the people that we bring in. We got to hit home runs, right? And so there is no in-state tuition where you can kind of move someone off. There is no academic money that is easier to get just because you have a high school GPA. It's really challenging to get in. And I think it's about 11, 12%. I don't know if I would be getting in anymore. But I think it's a lot of little things that we can overcome. And then once you kind of get the ball rolling, like an NC State has, obviously like UVA has, Louisville, some great programs out there that, maybe weren't around 10, 15 years ago when I was looking. I think now they have the recipe, and everyone's kind of trying to create the same sort of magic. But it's at the end of the day, a lot of the kind of littler schools that maybe don't have the same history, we can rely on our history and our resources to kind of get from not just perennial, but just like back to the top.
Right, right. Is it hard because it is private and it's mainly, I guess, affluent families that can afford to go there? Is that a challenge? Is it almost too comfortable in a way? Like, do you sometimes get frustrated that the athletes get everything they need, and it's almost too comfortable? Or am I reading into that? Or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the athletes have, a lot of resources. And I think it's just trying to find that balance of using your resources for swim, using them for academics, and then using it for setting yourself up for life afterwards. I think the alumni network is extremely strong. And so, we definitely encourage internships during the summer. It's not 100% in that you have to be, doing triple swims or whatnot, but we want to try to craft a schedule where you can be swimming, you can be doing weights, and you can be getting a great education in the summer, whether it's summer school or an internship. And so our goal is to really try to get you the best well-rounded experience. And I think right now there's a little bit of it's hard to have that balance. And I think you get here, and maybe one direction pulls you, in a different way. And so I think for those of you who are looking for like one specific way, USC kind of offers 3 or 4 different ways. And so I think it takes a special kind of athlete who's very motivated, intrinsically motivated, and really kind of wants the best of all the worlds.
I guess that's hard then to have a team of people like that. So you definitely need leaders within the group who have a kind of a clearer direction of where they're going and what they want, a little bit of grit, and kind of pulling other people along with them to say, hey, we're doing this, like I guess, I'm just looking back at my own experiences at Auburn. I know that when we won national titles as a team, as a swimmer myself, we had a couple of leaders who were like, it's this way or no way. Like, we're doing it together. And they just held everybody accountable to a certain standard and a certain goal. And you just kind of had to run with it. It was like they wouldn't let you out of it. It was like, we're doing it this way, and that's the way it's going. And that's kind of how we had success team wide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more you can have leadership come from within the team, I think
Mm,
the more successful you're going to be. Because at the
right,
end of the day, you can't keep harping on the exact same things over and over and over. You sound like a broken record. But if
right.
it's something where you walk into the door and it's meaningful to put on the SC shirt or the Trojan shirt that you got, it's something that stands for something bigger than yourself. And so I think
Yeah.
once you get a leader who really kind of embodies that, then it's a lot easier to just kind of keep it going.
Right, absolutely. Now, in terms of going from being a swimmer on the team to kind of almost immediately being a coach on the team, was that difficult for you, that transition? What were some of the challenges there for you?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges was obviously, that recruiting class that I had talked about, those freshmen, a lot of them were actually some of my best friends. And, I'm getting married next summer, and, Dylan Carter's in my wedding. And so it was interesting where I had this amazing relationship as like I was their captain, and I immediately had to become their coach. And
Mm,
so it was like we had the relationship at the pool still down, but it was like, yo, I can't like hang out with you guys outside of the pool. and,
right.
and I thought that, to be honest, what really helped me being a young coach was that I had Dylan, Santo, Reed, especially, who were all 3 individuals that were amazing, but they were also leaders amongst the team. And their kind of respect and believability in me helped kind of create this effect where everyone else felt the same way, where they were like, oh, like, maybe Chase is young, but these guys believe in them, and so, or believe in him. So, I think we can too, as a coach, and not just like, oh, he's just kind of like a peer. And so
Right.
they helped tremendously, whether they knew it or not. They were a pain sometimes, as they know, but I think they really helped me in that transition.
Yeah, I don't know the other guys too well, but Dylan Carter's one of the best guys you could possibly meet. Just a great man, good leader. He's very enthusiastic about his own career as well as his own swimming. So I could see how he would certainly pull other people along with him. Good dude, love Dylan.
Yeah.
Been on the podcast too, love him. What about this then? So how was the growth then? Like who actually talked you into being a coach? You said you weren't sure about it. Who was the one that brought it to you first?
Yeah, so I hassled Salo and I hassled Catherine and Jeremy and even Kevin, I guess to an extent, during that whole year of like, look, I think I can provide a lot of value in recruiting. And so how about you guys hire me as like a recruiting coordinator? I won't coach, I'll just kind of recruit. I'll do, the official visits, I'll organize all that. I'll go out on home visits so you guys can stay here and coach. And I really loved like the official visits when I was an athlete. Like I even hosted like my senior year, which was pretty unusual. But I just loved it, and it was a lot of fun to just connect with swimmers and just connect and meet new people. And so they kind of had that in their ear. And then, like I said, Kevin had stepped away from the program, I think a month after I graduated, and I was still training there. And so they approached me and they said, "Hey, we have this kind of unique opportunity, and you can think of it like a master's program. You're getting paid, like you're not a grad student by any means, but you can think of it almost like an experiential master's program. Like, let's do it for the next 2 years through the Rio Olympics, and then from there, you can tell us if you want to keep coaching or if you want to go off in a different direction."
That's interesting. That's a cool way to start and kind of get
Yeah.
your foot in the door. Talk to me a bit about that, the recruiting side of college swimming. That there may be, everyone knows it exists, and a lot of people hear about it, but they don't really know what goes into college recruiting. Can you kind of take me through the nuts and bolts of what it looks like and how you get information and how you transfer that to the assistant coaches and head coaches? Talk to me about that process.
Yeah, so now it starts even earlier now. You're bringing athletes in who are 15, 16 years old, who are juniors, and you're bringing them onto campus. And that's a whole different dynamic than what we used to have. But, it starts with just, obviously going to meets and kind of watching. But swimming's great because you can see times from across the country and kind of see who it is. And obviously social media is a big deal now, and you gotta create a hype page on your Instagram and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you also want to have a genuine connection with them and not just live in this kind of Instagram world. And so the biggest thing that I try to do is just make those genuine connections and then really foster those. And I think I see that more and more with the people that we don't get. Because I'm still friendly with them on the deck, and they know that they can say hi, and it's not this like awkward business transaction.
Mhm.
Like if you say no to USC, it's not just like, oh, you're shunned for the rest of your life. Like you can't ever like step foot on campus or like wave at us at a dual meet. It's like, no, we got to go to your house and maybe have a meal together and meet your dog or whatever it was. And so, we still want to carry those relationships with us moving forward because especially now with fifth years, you never know, that person might circle back around. And if you were friendly to them in their undergrad, they might come back to USC for their fifth year.
Yeah. Talk to me about the recruiting process for kids. If you were to recommend just generally how to get noticed by USC or any other major program, I get this question all the time. Like,
Hmm.
what are the big things for you? What pops up on your radar? Obviously, fast swimming certainly helps, but beyond that, what else is there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like having the wherewithal to know kind of like who you're approaching. And so do a little bit of homework, look at if they're in the SEC, look at, the top 16 times from SEC. If they're in Pac-12, look at the top 16. Wherever you're looking, look at the kind of conference results. Obviously, look at the team depth chart. And then from there, give progression. I think progression's a really big one and not just your best time. I think there's always the jokes about like watch times or like, oh, I think with your coaching I could do this time. I think those are all great aspects of recruiting, but I think coaches really want to know kind of like where you're at right now, and kind of where you're going, and what you're doing along the way. And so kind of updates like that, be, I would say, as short with their first email as you can, and not like lengthy paragraphs of giving your whole kind of diatribe of what your program's been like since you were 12. I think that's probably the easiest way to get in with a program. and just, recognizing if you feel like you're not within the reach, just recognizing that and saying, hey, like, I just want you to know, like, I have USC on my radar, or I have X school on my radar, and I would love for you to, recruit me if you feel like this is a good fit.
Now, once you've gathered that information, you're the recruiting coordinator. So what do you do with the information? How do you get it to the assistants? How do you get it to the head coach? How do you get it on the head coach's radar of like, hey, this is the person you want?
Yeah, so I actually create like a little spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet. I take the top times for pretty much age 14 through 16 and kind of see like the progression. And then we do like a ranking system, if you will, almost like Moneyball, and really just try to see, where people are at. And so, how many events are you in the top? We do like top 50 for each age group. So how many events in the top 50 are you in? So are you someone that's versatile, or are you just popping in and maybe just 100 back? And then that way we kind of create like a bigger profile, almost like a big board, and we have that in a digital format. And then from there, we kind of break it up by region. And so I'll give each coach a region. So,
Mm.
whether you have the West Coast, you have the East, and then that way, when we go to juniors and stuff, we know, like, okay, you're already talking to those kids in the East. You're going to head out to juniors out in the East. And I think a lot of programs probably do this as well. But I think getting to know at least one coach really well first before you get to know the entire staff is good, because sometimes I think you can get bounced around a little bit too much in the recruiting calls. And like I said, you don't make that genuine connection that you're looking for, or that you should be looking for with a program. You're just kind of getting the hype train going, and you're really just trying to hop on with one of the coaches.
Yeah, let me click back to that. There you go. I like to get full format when you're talking. So I'm
Yeah.
here still. I'm listening.
The
I
first
have a
time
little,
freaked me out. I was like, oh, I dropped the call.
it enables me to have a little whiskey in between. So
Yeah.
um, it's all good. So listen, well, beyond that, so that all right, that makes sense for them. That's good. We always struggled with recruiting, at Auburn on the West Coast. Obviously, it's like you have regions where you're like, okay, it's going to be real tough to get kids out of there. In terms of the West Coast and where you're at, do you have situations like that where it's almost impossible to get kids from the East Coast because it's just too far, or like, is there a kind of like a range of like we do really well here and it's really difficult over there or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think it's something that we've been trying to figure out. I think it comes in waves. I think sometimes, if you can tap into a good club pipeline, then you can, get more and more of those athletes. But I think because it's a private school and because of the location, we can kind of expand not just US, but globally as well. And so there's times, obviously, with Texas, it's tough to get a guy away from Eddie and Wyatt down there. But I think in general, the people that we're looking at, if they're looking for like a good private school, they're willing to kind of move all over the country for one of those. And so we found kids on the East Coast, they want 70-degree winters. They don't want to be snowed in, and so
Mm,
they'll
mm,
come out. And when we have our dual meets in January, February, their parents are actually coming out too, because they know that it's a lot warmer out there to go watch their kids. Same thing with the Midwest. I think we did really well for a couple years there, and we got a lot of the top talent in the Midwest. And so I think if you can tap in a little bit to a good club team or just a region, and obviously like the national junior team is a great pipeline. And so the more and more you have from there, I think kids aren't necessarily opposed to coming out. Like you said earlier, like it's California. I think it has its own appeal, and then it's like you just got to get someone on campus, and then they can kind of see it for themselves. I think that's our biggest struggle right now is getting them out for a trip, because I don't know, I've seen that once most people come for a trip, they're not like, oh my god, this place is like amazing, I'm blown away. They're like, it's more like, yeah, they kind of knew that it was going to be awesome, and it fulfilled their dreams and their fantasies.
yeah. I'm sorry, man. I can't get it out of my head. You said you moved from Hawaii to where was it? You said you moved to
To Malibu.
Malibu. I mean, who moves to Malibu? What'd your parents do, man? Come on, seriously. How do you move to Malibu?
So my grandma was smart enough to buy in Malibu when there was like dirt roads and one stop sign back in 1960. Yeah, so we're still out there as a family. My grandma's still out there, and yeah, that's kind of where I got to grow up once I moved from Hawaii. And yeah, I was obviously very lucky, and which is why it made it harder to convince myself to take a trip out to Auburn when I was waking up next to the beach every day.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm waking up in Malibu, I'm not going to Albany either, man. Don't worry about it. I mean, I woke up in Sydney, Australia. It wasn't bad. I can't complain about Sydney, but I had no idea I was moving to Auburn, Alabama, by the way. So took me by surprise. But that's pretty nice. That's cool. Well, in terms of your coaching development, how's that gone then? How have you gone from kind of a swimmer to a leading coach? Like, where's that development been? How have you managed to improve as a coach?
Yeah, I think I've really managed to tap into other coaches, and I love chatting with people. I know you and I have chatted before at different international meets and whatnot. But yeah, I think just always having an open mind and knowing that like you don't know everything, and you might not even know most things. And so I think once you do that, then it's a lot easier to approach people. And then also, I think just really trying to connect with the athletes and trying to create like a partnership and get the feedback from them. I think that was something that I really enjoyed as a student athlete, was getting to hear the coach's feedback and them wanting to listen to what I thought. And so I had a really good relationship with my club coach, and we did that very well. Especially going into like taper time, I would tell him kind of how I felt, what I thought I needed, and he would make the expert opinion of like where to go with that. And I think he did a really good job of kind of allowing me to have some input. And so I definitely use that into my coaching now as well. And so I think one of the best things for me has been getting to go with Dylan Carter and get to go to world championships and the Olympics this past summer and Commonwealth games. And that really kind of matures you and escalates you pretty quickly in the coaching ranks, where I look back and I've been to almost every big meet as a coach, and that's been very blessed. But I feel like that part really helped me because I met not just the best domestic coaches, but I got to talk to the best international coaches there is.
Yeah, I've said this before, I think on the podcast. One of the best pieces of advice I got from got transitioning from swimmer to coach was David Marsh. Telling me, Brett, just get a notepad. Just like this, get a notepad and write down your favorite sets. Write down things that you believe worked for you. Write down things that you think you'd want to teach and learn or know more about. Kind of just developing, kind of forcing myself to develop. All right, what do I believe in here? What are the things that I think work? How would I want to coach an athlete like myself, kind of thing, and really developing my own. And look, everyone knows this. I'm a sprint coach. I'm really good at it, I feel, but that's kind of my
Yeah.
domain. It's like, but I really dove into how can I be the best sprint coach I could possibly be, and that's where I started. And so, did you do anything like that in terms of your development of trying to figure out your own philosophy?
Yeah, definitely. And I felt like I had a lot of help along the way in having kind of two ends of the spectrum where, John Urbanchek was still a volunteer assistant coach with USC.
Mm.
So here you have one of the greatest mid sprint, mid distance, whatever you want to call it, aerobic coaches. I mean, the guy created colors that everyone uses. And then obviously with Salo, who created he basically created USRPT before it was called that.
Mm.
And so here I had two of the greatest. And so I think I would just try to absorb as much as I could and just kind of talk to them about what they see in different things, and kind of share my opinion every now and then of what I see. And I think they did a really good job of listening to what we thought and kind of try to balance that. And so I think for me, it was just more of not trying to copy. I think that's something that a lot of people do, with great coaches is, you grab a band check set and you just say, all right, here you go. And you give it to your athletes.
Mm.
And it's not the same thing. You have to be able to connect with your athletes. You have to understand that there's a time and place for that set, and not just like, all right, I got John's workout book and now I'm set as a coach.
Mm.
And same thing with Dave's. He's got crazy whiteboard workouts, but you can't give that to everybody. You have to be able to understand when you can give that to them. And so I felt like I understood that as an athlete, when I was going through it. Of like, there were days that I liked John's sets, there were days that I liked Dave's sets, and I was a sprinter, but I still like John sets on certain days to really grind. And so I knew as a coach that I need to be able to have that versatility to kind of bounce back and forth and create my own kind of mantra.
Yeah, I mean, I did. That's why I created the Gatorade set. I wanted something that was mine.
It's still legendary. I'm gonna have to get busted out maybe during Christmas training.
It is still it follows me like a bad smell. It's terrible. Yeah, you do. You have to. Well, then in terms of if someone was to categorize, if you were to say, if I was to ask Dylan Carter, how would you categorize Chase in terms of his coaching style? What do you think you would say?
I think he would probably say I like to use equipment a lot. He'd probably say I like to use socks a lot.
Hmm.
A lot of I was an underwater specialist, and so I try to incorporate that into everything I do. Whether that's just trying to hit kick counts off of a wall of like 875s, you still give them like a kick count. But I think he would definitely say it's much more of a what you need, and whether you go in thinking that you needed it, you end up realizing that's what I needed at the end of the day. And so I think him and I, especially, I think we created a good enough relationship that I was able to give him, a hard set kind of disguised. And then he would put forth the work and get out kind of what I was expecting and kind of what he needed by the end of it. And so I think obviously that comes with time with working with someone. But I think that's what's great with college is, you can be with the same coach for 4 years, hopefully.
What about this? You think you're ready to be a head coach, or maybe even be kind of appointed head coach of? You think it'll ever split? You think they'll ever split the men and women at USC? Would that happen?
I don't think so. I think the history is too strong of especially of recent kind of years of the combined program. But I think that's also why we get the athletes that we get. Especially I know on the women's side of things, a lot of our women they don't want to go to like a single gender program,
Right,
and
right.
that's kind of why they chose USC.
Yep.
And I think the guys, I think it benefits them. I know for me. I got to train with Katinka Hozu, and I mean, she kicked my butt more than once, that's for sure. And so it makes you go faster. Yeah, I don't think we would ever split. I don't think that's in the cards for like the style of USC, at least not right now. Yeah, in terms of being a head coach, I think I try to absorb everything that I can over the last 12 years on campus. But I think it's just more about just doing right by the athletes every day, and so I think whether you're assistant coach or the head coach, you got to just remain the same person. And I think that's something that I've seen not just in swim coaching, but just coaching in general. I'm a huge sports fan, but I see people who, they get elevated up to head coach, or maybe they get head coach at a bigger spot than they are at, and they kind of switch personalities and they try to, be something that they weren't. And it's like, you're kind of hired for, a very specific reason, and it's how you were already. And so, obviously there's more responsibilities as a head coach. Everyone knows that. But I think your personality and your readiness has to kind of be the same. And so whether I end up being a head coach one day or if I just remain an assistant, I'm going to treat it the same, and I'm going to treat the athletes the same.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I think. How old are you now?
I'm 30 now.
30. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You're in the corner. Nice.
I know. Yeah, just recently. Yeah.
The 30s. All right. Well, yeah, you're definitely ready. I mean, in terms of your experience and your age, and you've been there for a long time. But Lee's obviously leading the program right now, and who knows where it's going to end up next year. But is is a top 10 program ready for a female lead on the men's side as well, like a combined program like yourself? You think it's ready for a female lead? What's your opinion
Yeah,
on that?
I think so. I think absolutely. I know in sports, obviously, we're starting to progress in basketball. I think Becky Hammond has done a really good job of showing that there can be great female coaches in a men-dominated sport, and obviously basketball is just men
Mm.
in the NBA. And so I think for a combined swim program, we're absolutely ready. I think um, it comes down to your experience and also just kind of your connection. And so it doesn't have to be a male to male connection. It can be, female to male. And It's just knowing that that person that is leading the charge is with you every step of the way, and kind of making sure that the path that they are paving for you is one that you want to go down. And so I don't think it has to, necessarily be a gender thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we're at that point too. I really do. I think we're ready, and I think it would be a great thing if USC was to even lead the charge on that. If it was to come to that, I think Lee's an outstanding coach for sure as well. But there's also a lot of possibilities. But I just think that I've thought about that just recently. Of like it's almost time. It's like
Hmm.
a female to lead a male program and give that a chance. And I think it's absolutely something that can be successful for sure. And Lee's doing it right now. So I mean, she's kind of showing that it can be done in that sense. But do you feel like at some point you need to move away from USC to get a different experience? How do you feel about that situation?
Yeah, I definitely get asked that question a lot. I think for me, I can't see myself going anywhere else. I really can't. Like I said, I love recruiting, but I love it because it doesn't feel like I'm a used car salesman or like I'm selling anything. It genuinely feels like, hey, this was my experience. If you want to experience something similar, this is the place to do it at. And so I don't feel like I have to kind of reinvent the wheel and try to figure out different things of like what to sell about the campus, but just kind of sharing my experiences, sharing the stories, sharing those connections, and just hoping that it works out for that athlete, and they kind of find their happily ever after, if you will.
Right, right. Well, talk to me about the team right now. You guys are at this meet. Where are you at in the season? What kind of preparation are you at? Are you rested for this? Are you suiting for this? I mean, are you swimming through this? What's it? What is it for your team?
Yeah, we're gonna rest. We're about a week rested. Whether they think that or not, that's always a debate. But yeah, week rested, shaved, and we'll throw on suits. Like I said, we got to swim fast right now to kind of show where we're at in the season and really give USC kind of that extra boost as we go forward for the rest of the season. And I think it's important to show kind of ourselves like we've put in the hard work. Now it's time to kind of reap the rewards. And so, if we can do that this weekend, then we can come out, enjoy Thanksgiving with our families, and then get to work for March. And so, if we see the results, then and it shows that it's based off the work that we've been doing, they're going to be much more inclined to do the work moving forward.
You never look stressed, man. You always look happy and healthy, and I'm always envious of how happy and healthy you look. I'm like, he looks good all the time. Like, is there any stress in your life? What's happening?
Oh, there's occasionally stresses, but actually, I'm like I said, I'm getting married next summer, and my fiance, her mom is a wedding planner, so that stress is kind of
Oh,
gone. I
damn.
I don't have to. Yeah, I seem to luck out. I feel obviously touched by God in a lot of circumstances, and I have this, and some people have seen it, living the dream here, and
Mm.
anytime that I do feel a little stressed or whatnot, I kind of look down at that and remember, I'm surrounded by great people and I'm in an amazing position to be in. Just, obviously, just first off, alive, but second, just being at USC and being surrounded by amazing athletes every day.
Yeah, I mean, love that tattoo, man. That's awesome. But obviously there are stresses. So the reality of what you do and where do the pressures come from for you? Like where do you feel the most pressure?
Yeah, for me, it's more of it's probably a validation pressure of like, did I get them prepared enough? Are they going to listen to kind of what we have been doing this season, or as we lead into this meet? And so it's more of a pressure of like, I hope we perform. And for me, I was never someone who felt the pressure when I swam because I love, like I said, I loved the relays, I loved NCAA's, so I kind of like rose to the pressure. And so now when we're at a meet, like even if it's a dual meet, like my heart's racing like every time they get up for a relay because I'm out of control now. And so kind of that stress is kind of more of the not being in control of the sport as much as I used to be. And so that's something that you can just hope and pray that they're prepared well enough, and you did your job.
What about the pro side of things? We don't necessarily have pro teams or pro programs. A lot of pro swimmers are swimming in college programs still. Do you guys still have some pro athletes with you at this point?
Yeah, we do. So Vlad just came back after Europeans, and then he's training with us through Worlds, and then he'll come back obviously after Worlds and gear up for. I think Russian trials are in March this year since Worlds is so early. And then Annika Apostolon has been training with us. Primarily, it's just been our alums. I think we'll tap back into having a pro group or something like that. As you know, people flock to the warm weather, and they like living down by the beach and commuting up to USC. So hopefully we can get back to that. I think it's a great kind of thing to have. When I was a student athlete at USC, the team was amazing. It was the 2012 Olympics. I think there was 25 athletes from 13 different countries. The US was Jess Hardy, Reb Sony, um, Ricky Barons, Dave Walters, and then internationally you had like Don Tree, Kosuke, Marcus Rogan. I
Mm.
mean, as a who's who of the pool deck, and so as a college athlete, it was amazing. If I wanted to race Marcus in backstroke one day, I could, and the next day I race Ricky in freestyle. And when I say race, that's a very loose term, but learn from the best, and I think that's kind of where I guess my peer coaching started was to be the best, you got to learn from the best, and if you want to be the best, you should surround yourself with the best.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I had Salo on the program just this week. Came out with the podcast, and how's your relationship with him? Still all good?
Yeah, we definitely talk every now and then. Not as much. I would say like over the last like year and a half. Obviously, just because there was not many meets. I think when we get to a swim meet, we'll chat. But yeah, we're not really calling each other up too much. I think it was definitely a difficult time. The way that everything kind of went down, where it was like we were supposed to kind of have this ride off into the sunset moment with him as we went to NCAA's,
Mm.
especially with our women's team. I think they had a chance to win some relay titles and really kind of, carry him off on his shoulders like Rudy style. And then COVID hit. And so, we didn't really get that chance. And so I think it was definitely challenging kind of all of last year as we went through this new change. But we invited him back for alumni relays. He was a starter for one of the relays.
Oh, he didn't suit up, didn't put the jacket on.
He did not. He did not. But he did a great job. He was a great starter.
Mm.
And then obviously he's touched a lot of lives. Being at USC in the late '80s, and then obviously as a head coach starting in like early 2000s. And so he knew a lot of the alums, and it was great to see him back on deck and kind of basking in the SoCal sunshine.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I've enjoyed getting to know you more, and this has been cool.
Yeah. Thanks again, man.
What's the immediate future then, or where do you see yourself? What's happening in the next few years for you?
I see myself right here in Southern California. My family's from here. My fiance's family's from here, and yeah, there's no place that we want to be. We're right there in Playa Vista, right where you were
Mm,
hanging out at that
mm,
pool. So
good
maybe
spot.
maybe we can start a little pro team there, and we'll see what we can do.
One day, man. That'd be my goal for sure. Love to. Actually, you were the guy that introduced me to Cody Simpson, so I have to thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
of
hounded
course.
you for a contact there, and you gave it to me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I'm always your guy with the contacts. I love
You are.
connecting people.
Yeah, I feel like I've got some contacts now, but if I ever need someone, I come to you. So you're
Perfect.
the guy. All right, man. I appreciate this. Thanks. Good luck with
Yeah.
everything this week, and for the rest of the season. All right.
Thanks, Brett.
All right, Chase. See you, man.
See ya.